Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today we are continuing our discussion of the third Crescent City book, House of Flame and Shadow. We'll be discussing chapters 45 through 53. Quick reminder, this podcast is spoiler heavy across all of Sarah J. Maas's books through all three of her series, so please listen at your own risk. Deb, I feel like my voice got real, like, kind of
smelly cat.
Yeah, kind of sexy phlegm. Yeah. Deb, will you please tell our listeners about our nerdiest cocktail?
Of course. Tonight's drink is named Teen Caves. And
yeah.
I'm like picturing them with like those sports foam fingers, right?
Yeah, Team Caves.
Yeah.
Team Caves.
And it's themed after Bryce needing to cool it with the racism against the Fae community.
I mean,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
This drink pairs well with having no plan whatsoever, spelunking in caves, and sleeping next to ghouls, not girls. Ghouls.
The ghouls.
The ghouls. It may cause you to be glad that Midgard worms are not on this planet.
For real.
And it has rum and Coca-Cola and orange juice in it, which is weird, but it's surprisingly really good.
It is good.
It's a take on what they call a muddy river drink. And if you're watching the YouTube feed, I'm currently drinking beer because we drank it all already. So there's that. 'Cause you know someone's going to be on YouTube and they're like, that does not look like soda. That looks like a beer. I'm like, yeah, because
absolutely.
we recorded Tuesday's episode.
Yeah, we are.
We're trying to not get Whitney wasted. So
yeah, that's always the goal.
sometimes me and Mindy just get wasted and eat French fries when we're done. That happens
Good
about
times, good
20% of the time.
Well, it is. I would never put Coke and orange juice together, but it works.
It was
Yeah,
good. The
it's
citrus
good.
and it was yummy.
Thank you so much, Deb.
You are like so welcome.
Mindy, the Wheel of Names has spoken.
It has.
Whose turn is it to do the recap? Uh-oh. I did remember as I was walking out the door to come over here, and I was like, well, it's too late now. This is just going to go how it goes. So I am going to have 30 seconds to try to recap what has happened in this section of the book. And I'm getting my 30-second timer going or ready to go. It's going to be something. So away we go. Okay. So Lydia's kids kind of hate her and she's leaving again to go to Avallen. Therian defects from the Ocean Queen and he goes to Avallen as well. They are looking for information about the Star Sword and the Truth Teller, and oh hey, Flynn has a younger sister and she's gonna have to marry somebody horrible, but Therian saves the day and marries her instead. Sigrid is now a Reaper. Ethan wants to raise Sophie to fix it. Just give up while you're ahead, my man. And they had sex. They had sex.
Who had sex?
Bryson Hunt.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And that was right when the timer was going off. Like, they had sex.
You scared me just now.
Sorry.
Jumped.
I was like,
Very aggressive.
I was thinking there was something really important that happened. What was it? It was that.
They got it on.
It's only what we've been wishing for the past,
I know.
like, 3 episodes.
I know, right? That reminds me of a quote that I can't remember, but I know it's something Schmidt says in New Girl. Like, I've only been dreaming of this moment for the last 10 years. I feel like he's saying it to Nick Miller. But anyway, so that was kind of stuff that happened. So, you know.
That actually was really good.
Thank you so much.
Seriously, like, I'm impressed.
I left out a lot of details.
She just got me horny when she screamed sex.
They had sex! I'm like, Phoebe, they're doing it!
For everyone, don't you feel bad for Whitney's husband right now?
That's my bedroom voice.
Sex!
No, they're doing it!
That's your kids.
Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, let's get back on track here.
I don't know if we can.
Mindy, it's time for our nerdiest vocabulary.
It is time for
Tell
our
us what
nerdiest
sex
vocabulary.
is.
I didn't do that etymology this week. So we do get to finally meet in person. Well, we've met him before, but like really get to meet him in his own element. Morven. So, you know, the king, I guess he's the king of Avallen.
He is, yeah.
So the name Morven, I'm shockingly actually exists, and as an actual first name, it is from the Scottish Gaelic, and it means either big mountain or child of the sea, depending on which dialect you're looking at. And honestly, that kind of makes sense because he basically lives on an island
in the middle of the ocean.
In the middle of the ocean, and it's kind of isolated.
Where he needs to be away from everyone else.
Right? So I don't know. I thought that one kind of fit. And then the next one, I wanted to look a little bit more into Avallen. And I know I've talked in the past about how I think Moore is from Avallen and that she and Cormac are related.
I keep saying Avallen. So I'm going to say that one. It's my turn.
You can say whatever however you want to. That is, you do you, boo. So I've talked about that kind of how I think they're related, but I've never really looked into the etymology of the actual word. And it's actually an old Cornish word meaning apple tree. And I thought, why would that be the word that she goes with? And then I started thinking that an apple tree is typically considered the tree of knowledge, which would make sense that all the knowledge is contained in their library. And that's sort of where that went.
Damn you, Sarah J. Maas.
I know.
Can I add to that too? Because where I just went was the tree of knowledge, but also connecting that specifically to the Garden of Eden, which is like the beginning of life. And it seems like all the Prithian people stayed in Avallen for the most part. And that is where like kind of the life started for the people that came with the Asteri on Midgard. So
nice connection.
Biblical connections with Sarah J. Maas. Sorry.
That was lovely.
That's one of those times that I'm doing it and then I'm like, why am I doing this? But it's too late.
Entertaining
because
and amazing.
We like it.
Yes.
We love it when you sing to us.
Did I interrupt you or were you?
No, I was done.
Okay.
She's
good.
like, I don't give a fuck because I wanted to sing.
Sorry. Well, thank you so much, Mindy.
Welcome.
I like the apple tree.
I do too.
I wish that they had apple trees on the island to really like hit that home, you know? Yeah.
Maybe they will someday.
Maybe.
One can dream.
The book's not over yet, right? Well, let's get into some of the details of this section because I feel like I did hit the high points, but there's a lot that happened that you can't talk about in 30 seconds. So I'm curious to hear what your favorite moments were.
You want to know what's really funny before we get started with our favorite moments? So much happens in this book that I accidentally reread part of last week's and was highlighting new shit.
I did the same
like I had
exact
never read
thing.
it. And I was like, wait, that was a really short section to read. Not much happened. And I was like, oh, because I'm reading half of last week's. I literally was highlighting shit.
I did the exact same thing. That's so weird. I had to go back and look at our little cheat sheet of what we're supposed to be reading each week. Yeah.
That's why we had to start 30 minutes late. Because I realized I had 5 other chapters I needed to read.
Oopsie poopsie.
Whoopsies. That's funny that you did that too. I'm blaming it on not jet lag, but just being tired from
traveling.
Travel lag.
Yeah.
It was a lot. It was a lot. Well, so once you read the correct section, what was your favorite moment?
I think I did. So I'm going to talk more about this later because they're my chapter MVPs and favorite secondary character. But literally every interaction between Jezebel and Ethan or Bryce and the Stag King. They were like the banter between those 4 characters was outstanding in this section. So I'll talk about it more in a little bit. But everything. Right
There's a lot of good stuff in those conversations.
For sure.
Mindy, what was yours?
I just had like all of mine were very little moments that I
So were
really
mine.
loved. So I kind of loved when Bryce came across the Pegasus tapestry.
Yeah.
I thought that was precious how she was like so excited. Like they actually existed. I thought that was really sweet.
Yeah.
I also like when they're going in and she's trying to like bring up the mood a little bit and she says, "Go Team Games."
But I also love how no one goes in on it with her and she literally high fives herself.
Exactly.
I'm like, and that's just her swagger. She's like, well, fuck you guys. If you're not going to get excited,
fine.
I'll high five myself.
Mine was a small. Was that?
I had one
Sorry,
more.
go ahead.
It was just a satisfying one when Rune flipped off Morven.
I liked
with
that.
his tiny rune hand or the big hand.
the little baby rune hand. Yeah. Wah, wah.
Picturing a toddler middle finger.
Which makes it even better.
Yes,
Poor Rune.
absolutely.
They haven't mentioned his hand for a while, so I guess it's fully,
that's good
healed and back to normal now. But I feel like they talk about it.
If I was Lydia, I'd be like, we can't fuck until that hand.
I need a full man hand. Thank you. Well, my favorite moment is a really small moment too. It's, of course, it involves Lydia, but it really is more about Bryce. So when they're standing out on the the top, I guess, I can't remember, the deck of the depth charger, getting ready to go into the smaller boat to go on to Avallen. And Lydia has just had that like really horrible interaction with her kids and is leaving them yet again against her will, because remember, the Ocean Queen is making her go with them to Avallen. If it was up to her, she would stay on the ship with her kids, but she doesn't really get that choice. And Bryce sees Lydia and sees that Lydia is kind of off by herself and sees that Lydia is struggling and is smart enough to use her common sense to think, oh, this is probably about leaving her kids, and goes up to her and like has a little moment with her and says, I'm sorry that you're leaving them again. And Lydia just seems so surprised that anybody noticed and like thought about it. And that makes me sad for Lydia.
No one's ever thought of her mental health, right?
Right. Nobody pays attention to her like that. And she's just, I have just felt so bad for Lydia because she's so alone because of the way Rune is like ostracizing her kind of and like icing her out.
Yeah,
and I just really loved that.
His buddies are like taking his side, right?
I know, right?
Yeah.
I really liked that Bryce did that for her, because Bryce isn't always like super sweet and cuddly, right? Yeah. Sometimes she is, and sometimes she very much is not. And her being aware of other people like that and seeing other people's hurt and trying to be there for them is why we love Bryce. Right. And I really loved that moment. So
it's interesting that you say that, because that's part of my least favorite moment in a way, because one of my least favorite moments is Lydia and all the hate she receives from Ace, which is one of her twins.
That was one of mine too.
And once again, having to leave them and pretty much thinking she isn't going to survive this battle. Like, she leaves an heirloom with them. Like, it's really sad. But then I do love how she takes Bryce's sympathy and friendship through the loss of her boys, because she starts to react like, what the fuck do you care? And then like stops herself.
I'm fine.
Right. And I really just, I can't imagine leaving your kids for a second time. I mean, she has to, because the Ocean Queen's going to kill her or kill other people, right? So,
well, and especially leaving them after they've been so horrible to you.
Well, like Brandon was nice to her.
Well,
but
but Ace sort of overshadowed that. I get that he's being a teenage boy and he definitely has abandonment issues. But
and they just found out who she was. I know,
and so I get where it's coming from. But I just feel for Lydia,
but she
because
left you
can't get a break,
right? Yeah. But she also left them in the best hands ever. And doesn't Brandon even say like, thank you for like help like getting us with our parents because we love them so much, which is really
because they're great parents,
right?
Yeah.
I also there's a clue to it in our nerdiest cocktail, but I really dislike Bryce's hate on all of the Fae in this section. She says the Fae do not deserve to be united. She says the Fae made their beds and can lay in them, and it just seems so different and off character of her to assign hate to all of one species based off a few people's actions. Right?
She really doubles down on it.
She does, and it's just not really how she has responded to things in the past. And I don't know if she's just more angry after being with Nesta and Azriel and seeing how fucked up things are. But I mean, it really correlates to like true racism in real life, and like it really made me feel uncomfortable.
I really think it's very much some self-loathing after being in Prithian and finding out that this power that she has, like what it is actually connected to and who it came from and what kind of person they were. I really think it's all about that. I think it's all
too,
but I totally agree with everything that you're saying. Yeah. It's like, okay, enough.
It's making me like her less.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Kind of along the same vein, one of my other least favorite moments is dealing with Bryce. I kind of hate that after all that Bryce and Hunt have been through with keeping secrets and saying, we're not going to do that anymore, that they're still doing that. Both of them are both keeping secrets from each other.
Yeah.
Still.
Yep. What is this, Supernatural?
I know, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I really dislike that too.
That's going to go real well.
Yeah, I really dislike that too. And she like kind of picked a fight with him a little bit at that dinner. And I wrote in my notes something to the effect of like, are you really going to do this right now?
Yeah.
Like, really? Okay. I really didn't like that.
They're just being childish.
I know. I totally agree with that. Well, my least favorite moment, shockingly, is not any of those things. My least favorite moment is, this is what I wrote. Freaking Sigrid being a Reaper and Ethan is still trying to fix it. I hate that. I hate that storyline.
Stop trying to make fetch happen, Ethan.
Right. Like and Hypaxia and Jezebel trying to continuing to try to help him fix it. Just stop it. Like somebody needs Hypaxia and or Jezebel should be the ones to be like, listen, we're going to be done with this now.
I like at this point, they're like, well, this is entertaining. Let's see where it goes.
I mean, well, and I think now Hypaxia is just joining the like, oh crap, I definitely messed this up. How do I fix this mistake? Like she's doing the same thing that Ethan is doing. But I think part of my problem with it is that I don't understand why Sigrid would choose to be a Reaper. Like, I don't get what the appeal would have been.
I do, because she has been locked away forever, and this gives her true power. I think she's worried that she's not going to get the power away from Sabine, and this gives her the power that she needs to get shit done.
But then when the Underking says, like, I offered her the choice to be a Reaper, he says she's going to be my slave.
That's true.
And so I'm like, did she not know that?
Why does Ethan think he's like, well, if I try again, she'll change her mind?
I know. Yeah. Well, and that's part of my issue, because I'm like, I don't know why she picked being a Reaper in the first place. So I don't know why.
She just has an evil heart altogether.
I mean, she doesn't seem like a great person, but because we don't know, or at least me as a reader, because I don't know why she wanted to be a Reaper in the first place, I don't understand why Ethan thinks that she would make a different choice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it on any level. And it makes me mad that these other characters are like, well, let's go get Sophie. Like, you know what? Sophie has done enough. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're like, well, if we can find Sophie,
reanimate another person.
Yeah, like let's find Sophie. We can raise her and use her Thunderbird power to make Sigrid not a And I'm just like,
it's a plot device to get Ethan to the island, which doesn't work very well.
I mean, okay, but like, how convoluted does that plot device have to be?
He could have just wanted to go help his friends.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, he didn't have to. He could have just gone with them in the first place.
Well, or,
you know,
like, to help with that guilt, it could have just been like, well, shit, that didn't work, and now we're fucked. So I probably should get to Avallen and help my friends.
Right. See, it just, I don't like it. It doesn't work for me on any level at all. And I wrote down this quote that I was just like, I wanted to throw my book across the room. So this is Ethan thinking to himself while Hypaxia is like in the act of raising Sigrid before they find out that she's chosen to be a Reaper.
Did you notice is 7 hours, 7 minutes,
and 7 seconds. Yeah. So like while Hypaxia is doing whatever that ritual is, he thinks to himself, he was a monster for having made this necessary. And I wrote, but it literally isn't. Yeah. Like, this isn't necessary.
You could have just let her stay dead.
Yes. And I wrote down, let us learn from our past mistakes, shall we? Like,
You're about to say past mixed shit.
Past mixed shit. But I mean, I'm done. I'm done with this storyline of Ethan like, well, let's try something else. Just stop it.
All these guys feeling sorry for themselves. I'm like, oh my God, get over it.
Well, and it really bugs me that Jezebel is like, well, all right, let's do this. And I'm like, why are you not?
I think she's bored.
Seriously, though.
Here's one of the questions I did have, though, is do you feel like there's something kind of starting to brew between Jezebel and Ethan a little bit?
Like in a sexual way?
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to end up together. And I wonder if she like really likes being around him.
I did not get that vibe at all, but now I'm going to look out for it.
Yeah.
She just really kind of entertains all his fancies and like
she does.
Tries to keep him around her and like, you know, she's
I see it more as like he's her plaything.
Like the Viper Queen would.
And then that does sound sexual, but I mean like more like she likes to
play
mess
games
with him. Yeah, he's like her little puppet that she can
she just seems so much more no nonsense to me that I feel like the Jezebel of the first 2 books would be like, you're being stupid.
Yeah.
We're not going to mess around with all this kind of magic power or whatever. Like, we're done. We're done with this. Go off to your little wolf pack pup and leave us alone. Like, you're playing with things you don't understand. And I don't understand why she's not saying that.
Well, I mean, I think ultimately if you're in the House of Flame of Shadow, though, like you're under the Underking, which makes you a little bit more evil and malicious.
Yeah, that's
Maybe
true.
she thinks it's funny.
Yeah, I hope not, because I kind of like her. That would make me dislike her.
And that was actually one of my biggest revelations, was that she's second in command of the House of Flame and Shadow.
Oh, yeah.
What the hell? Yeah. I didn't realize she was that high up.
Right. I don't think she doesn't like tout it at all.
No.
Yeah.
She could fuck some stuff up.
And she like defected into there too, essentially, right?
Yeah, she was with the witches.
Yeah.
Right.
Because Ethan talks about Hypaxia, like wondering if Hypaxia holds it against her because she defected from the witches. So,
But here's part of the reason I think that Ethan and she might have something kind of brewing, though, is that when she's with him, she doesn't automatically put her glamour back on and shows her real self. And she doesn't do that with anybody else. And I feel like it was a moment of vulnerability for her.
I had totally forgotten that she even had a glamour.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
I'd like to see Ethan end up with a powerful bitch at his side.
Keep him in line.
Right. My biggest revelation was the Asteri have been selectively breeding the wolves, and that made Danica so powerful that they had to take her out.
That was one of mine.
I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, you fucked up.
Yeah.
And then they've got Sabine, who they cannot control.
Yep.
Right.
And they've got Sigrid, who is now a Reaper. So how did that work out for you, dumbasses?
Who they probably won't be able to control based on how it's been going
She'll
so
just
far.
kill your ass.
I mean, yeah. My biggest revelation is really Avallen in general. So just getting to see, I mean, it's like this mythical place, right? We've been hearing about for a long time in these books. It was a nice payoff to actually like go there. But specifically the fact that there is no first light on Avallen, that I think that would be why the Asteri don't try to go there. Because they would have no energy source, right?
Yeah.
So, like, whether or
They're
not
being shrouded by something, they can't get.
Well,
there,
they've got but even if they can, because that's something the characters keep talking about, right? Like, do you really think they can't get through the mist? Whatever, like whether they can get through the mist or not, if there's no first light, they have no energy. Yeah. They have no power source, so that would just be too much of a risk for them anyway. So that to me, that explains why they don't try to go to a. You know what I mean? Like, no matter what's true or not with the mist, that makes sense to me.
I find it difficult to believe that they would let anything exist that they cannot control.
That I'm kind of that way too. Like I didn't like sit there and think about that. Like I knew that they didn't have first light, but then I'm like, why? How are they helpful at all to
Avallen?
To the Asteri?
Okay, so this is part of why I think that. So Peleus founded Avallen, right? Peleus was their puppet. He's the one that manipulated Thea to use the horn and stuff to get everybody to Midgard in the first place. So it would make sense to me that when they all arrived at Midgard to begin with, that the Asteri would have left Avallen alone as like an agreement with Peleus, because they could trust that he was going to do whatever they wanted him to do, because he had up to that point. Right. He got them to Midgard at all. Right? So it would make sense to me that Peleus might then have an opportunity to use whatever power, or Helena, who he forced to marry him, use whatever her power was to put whatever those wards are with the mist. And by that point, it would be too late for the Asteri to do anything.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all of these, Dum Dum Morven and his, not his descendants, his ancestors, they've all been keeping Avallen exactly the way that Peleus set it up. Like, they haven't changed anything.
Was so much like it reminded me so much of the King of Hybern, how he doesn't let anything go into the future on his island either. And it is this antiquated way of keeping people in line.
Yeah.
Right. And making them believe like this is the way it's supposed to be, because those people don't leave the island.
Right.
He rarely lets people come there.
Well, and if
You're just dropping shit over there.
I just did something weird with a cord. Sorry. No, but if that theory is right, that they left him alone for a bit, the Asteri, because they trusted that he was going to just do what they wanted him to do. And if he used that as an opportunity to protect the island and protect his people, then he absolutely would have told them all, don't leave.
Right.
You got to keep everything exactly like this, or we're not going to be safe anymore.
Right.
Because that would be true, right? If the Asteri were able to get a hold of them, they wouldn't be safe anymore.
Because Peleus's end goal was always for himself.
Exactly.
To protect himself. That makes sense.
So
that does make sense.
Way to go.
Thank you.
But my other question about the whole first light thing is, and maybe I just don't understand first light and everything because it's very convoluted.
I feel confident that I also do not understand first light. So
if they don't have any, Like, do they do the drop? Like, why would the Asteri want them around at all? They're not giving them anything.
I wondered that too. And I feel like they have to be doing the drop, because the way they talk about Morven is that he's been around just as long as the Autumn King has.
Yeah.
And I think that the parasite, if the Asteri put a parasite in the water, it would be, it's the whole ocean, right? Because they have that conversation with the Ocean Queen about it. I think they would have to do the drop to save themselves. And
this just seems weird to me. Like, they've got to go over to the mainland, so to speak. And
maybe they do it on Avallen. I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe I think it's possible that Peleus might have known about the parasite in the water. Because the humans in Parthos knew about it. Mm-hmm. So it would make sense to me that maybe Peleus knew or found out about it and told them, like, do the drop, do this, but then don't use the first light. Like, don't use it, don't have it. Okay. Do the drop and give them that, but don't use it for the stuff that everybody else is using it for. But that's all conjecture, right? Like, I'm making a lot of assumptions.
No, but I mean, it's very interesting, and it makes me think more,
Thank you. That is the teacher. My teacher heart is happy to hear you say that. So that's everybody's revelation, right?
Yeah. My other one was just that Sophie is on Avallen, which seems a little too convenient, but whatever.
I know, right? Why would she be on Avallen?
I don't get it. Whatever.
Sorry, we interrupted you for a really long time when you were not done with your revelation. Sorry.
No worries.
Well, let's talk about our favorite spicy scene. We actually have some.
One. I'm going to go first because mine's going to be different from both of yours.
I bet it might not be.
Okay, so mine is that Rune and Lydia finally have a moment.
Yep, that's mine too.
And what makes it so sexy for me is that he really just wants his friend back. And it says he wanted her naked and under him and moaning his name. I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. And wanted her to tell him everything and wanted his friend back. The friend he could speak honestly to, who knew things about him that no one else knew.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really sweet.
Well, I picked that same scene, but let me read what I wrote about this scene. I know we got a spicy scene with Hunt and Bryce, but I really was into Rune licking Lydia's neck.
Right.
I don't know what that says about me, but damn.
And the fact that she was like, lick my neck.
I mean, she was like, yes, take it. I really loved that. I enjoyed that scene way more than I enjoyed the sex scene.
I know how into Hunt and Bryce you are, so I just assumed you would never pick
I know.
Rune and Lydia.
I'm right there with you.
Well, I kind of picked the Bryce and Hunt scene. So I'm like, well, we finally got some spice, right? But it was weird, question mark?
It was kind of weird.
The whole body transcending thing is kind of creepy, and but the power exchange did get me thinking about something, and this is my crack theory, okay? What if the prophecy doesn't mean the actual weapons, the Star Sword and the, when they come together, they're people.
So the people will be united or whatever.
Like Bryce and Hunt are the sword and the knife, and they have to work together and combine all their power to defeat the Asteri.
Ooh.
What if that's actually what the prophecy means? Like they've been thinking it's wrong the whole time.
Interesting. So, well, because no prophecy in any fantasy book is that straightforward,
cut and dried.
Well, it's like what we talked about in the previous book with the the Oracle telling Cormac that he had to, like, they had to have a union or be united or something, and they assumed that it was marriage, but it ended up not being.
So I don't know that whole
look at you
power exchange and everything that they did, and how like they're basically like giving each other their powers.
That had a lot of Rowan Aylin vibes. What is it? The Caranam? Yeah.
But I don't know. It just made me think that maybe that they're going about this whole prophecy thing wrong. Just saying.
They do have a track record of that.
They do.
I like that theory. I don't think that's a crack theory. I think that's very legitimate. Yeah.
I feel like I pulled it out of my ass. But whatever. My butt crack. Is that why it's called a crack theory? Because you pull it out of your butt.
You know what? I don't know, but that makes sense.
I would think it was because you were like talking like you were on crack.
Oh, okay, that does make sense.
Maybe
too.
It's. I like your way better, Minnie.
Yeah, it came out of my butt crack.
Mm. Well, Deb, will you go first, telling us about your chapter MVP, because you mentioned it briefly earlier.
Sure,
and I want to hear more.
My chapter MVP is Jezebel. for several reasons why. My very first one is that whenever they go down into the House of Flame and Shadows, she gives Ethan a look to tell him, like, don't you fucking dare say that you killed Sigrid. And when he's shocked, she just pointedly looks at his frat boy outfit.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
Dude, I don't trust you for shit. Look at what you're wearing. The second is what Mindy said, that she's the second in command for the House of Flame and Shadow. She's working with the astronomer to help undo the spells that are hurting both of their magic. So that's a pretty big twist. And then she fucking brings a sewing kit to sew Sigrid's head back on. And I just like picture those little like hotel sewing kits, right?
Yeah.
Not like a big sewing kit like me and Mindy carry around, but yeah. But I did have something I wanted to say about this whole section with Jezebel. Because did you notice that when Ethan and Jezebel are summoned, that he's holding a statue of Chthona birthing on all fours? Did you notice that?
I did not notice
She's
that.
very specific about saying this. And it reminded me of a time a friend told me that women only started giving birth on their backs after King Louis XIV started to like, and yes, I mean like, watching his mistresses give birth on their backs. He did not like that the birthing stools used at that time obstructed his view of the birthing process. Did you guys know this?
Ew.
The only problem
He
is...
sounds like a freakazoid.
Well, I mean, he also had like 27 children. So the only problem is that statistically speaking, birthing in the supine position is not regarded as the easiest way to have a baby.
Yeah.
Having said that, and I'm going to say this to our listeners, Mindy, you said this earlier. You do you, boo. Whatever you have to do to deliver a healthy baby is how you should deliver your healthy baby.
Yep.
I had 2 C-sections. I have friends who have gone all natural and others who have literally squatted.
Yeah.
I'm only listing the scientific evidence for the sake of making sure you know what a weirdo King Louis XIV was. And honestly, how strongly he influenced birthing culture.
Yeah.
So here's what I found regarding birthing on one's back, which again was not the norm until King Louis got horny from watching women give birth. First, evidence largely suggests that lying on your back during birth actually prolongs labor and slows contractions, yet the majority of women, especially in the U.S., give birth in this position.
Yeah.
And
I
a lot of
did.
doctors say
I did
it's
too.
because you're more comfortable. And I mean, I labored on my back before my C-section. So yeah, a lot of researchers believe that being upright during delivery is best due to the help of gravity. Evidence has shown that walking and upright positions during the first stage of labor reduces the labor duration as well as the risk for C-section. There are midwives and obstetricians who believe that there are several benefits to squatting or kneeling during birth, including a reduction of the duration of the labor's second stage, a lower episiotomy rate, which if you don't know what that is, don't look it up. And although there's possible higher blood loss and increased risk of perennial tears in that position. So you may not be getting an episiotomy, but you're still tearing your taint. Which is awful. So a study...
Nice alliteration.
Tomato.
I think I'd prefer the gentle cut, to be honest. A study conducted in the Netherlands demonstrated that employing the Valsalva maneuver during the second stage of labor, particularly in an upright position, as opposed to other positions, resulted in shorter delivery times. So if you don't know what that is, the Valsalva maneuver is the technique used during the second stage of labor to help the fetus descend into the pelvis. And it's when you take the deep breath and hold it and then push down during your contraction. And I personally was not sad to have a bed to lay on during contractions, but also know that I would have not wanted to squat during that time. So if you have the wherewithal to do that, I think that's super awesome. But I want to point out that the women before Louis XIV made this a popular birthing option, they were using birthing stools. They were squatting, but he did not like that he couldn't see the vagina as the baby was coming out, which is really fucking gross.
Yeah.
That's really
Have you ever watched
weird.
a baby come out of a vagina? It is not pretty at all. And especially during that time when they didn't have any kind of like intervention or anything. So yeah, not to, make this gross and cringy, but there you go. Yeah. So Jezebel But it's weird that she specifically points out that he's holding a statue
Yeah.
of Chthona birthing on all
that is
fours.
odd.
That is kind
I
of
don't
weird.
really know what that's all about, so I'll be
Right.
interested to see if that comes back around at some point.
Good
Yeah,
catch.
that is a great catch.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you for
chapter
telling
MVP. Are you sure? Because you look fucking disgusted.
Do you know
for telling us.
if that King Louis, is that the same one that was portrayed in season 2 of Outlander? Do you know?
I don't know. Let me look.
Because I know it's one of those. Because that guy was kind of weird too.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
he was kinda psycho.
I'm looking it up. I do actually have this right here. That was King Louis the 15th. So the next one. Wait, what's XV?
15, yeah.
15th, yeah. So it would be the one after that.
Interesting.
I don't know why, but that's what they did.
Well, seems like weirdness runs in the family.
So did any of your chapter MVPs lead to a deep dive like that?
No, sadly.
Sadly, no.
No. Who was your chapter MVP?
Mine was Lydia, and basically just for calling Rune out to start acting like a prince.
Yeah, I enjoyed
Go-
that moment
you go,
too.
girl. Just
Yeah.
tell
She's
him.
like, stop being a little bitch.
Yeah, I loved that.
Because I'm ready for him to snap out of it so I can love him again.
I know, right? Yes, she was not my chapter MVP, shockingly, this
That
week.
is shocking.
But I did pick Bryce. But I really enjoyed her conversations with Rune, where she was like, she regarded him like coldly.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot because he deserves it.
He does.
But Bryce, honestly, I picked her as my MVP this week just for all of her sass with Morven. I really enjoyed
She
it
really
a lot.
did.
That's why she's my favorite secondary.
Yeah,
pick in this, yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot. So I just had 2 quotes that made me laugh out loud. So one is when Morven said, "What is that in your left hand?" And she says, "Some major prophecy fulfillment." I just really enjoyed that answer. And then when she says to all of her crew, "Okay, let's do a head count. If you're disowned, disgraced, or both, raise your hand." And then like everybody but Flynn, I think Flynn and Declan are the only ones that don't raise their hand. So then Flynn becomes their spokesperson, which also made me really laugh out loud. But I just really enjoyed her. I enjoyed her. There are things that I'm upset with her about, like we talked about earlier with her attitude about the fan stuff, but that all of her interaction with Morven made me laugh.
Well, I'll just add to that because she was my favorite secondary one. And I love that she antagonizes him by telling him he's running out of breeding stock. I also wrote down that whole, okay, let's do a head count. If you're disowned, disgraced, or both, raise your hand. She also says, if you pitched this place as a luxury vacation, you are about to get a bunch of 1-star reviews.
That was my favorite quote.
She also tells the king that he's mistaken if he thinks she needs permission to visit the archives or the caves, which I loved. And finally, she gives the Autumn King's journal to the Stag King and then mocks it by saying, "Dear diary, today I made a list of all my enemies and how I plan to kill them. It's so hard being king. I wish I had a friend." That made me laugh so hard. She's just brilliant in that whole exchange with
definitely
him.
That was a really well written scene.
Yeah.
Bravo SJM for the banter.
Good job.
It was great. Who was your favorite secondary
I
character,
actually
Mindy?
didn't pick one, but I'll tell you it's not.
The anti-favorite.
Ethan or Therian.
God, they're getting on my fucking nerves.
Because those 2 knuckleheads shouldn't be allowed to make any decisions ever again. So over them both.
I am glad though that finally people got pissed off at Therian because they're like, dude, you just really fucked things up for us by putting someone else, like putting us on someone else's radar. Why did you do that?
Thanks a lot.
Yep. Yeah, I appreciated all of their reactions to that as well. My favorite secondary character is Therian adjacent. It is Sathia, Flynn's sister, who just randomly shows up. And I think a new character being introduced more than 400 pages into book 3 of a series is insane. And
It was a bold move.
it was a bold move, but I really like her a lot. I think that SJM did a great job doing that, so far into a book series. I know Flynn wants us, well, it seems like Flynn wants us to hate her. He kind of seems like he hates her and basically says like she's a horrible person, but I kind of love her.
You're about to say she's a whore.
Well, I mean, maybe that too, but I don't know. He seems to think so, I'm sure. But she's sassy like Bryce. She's not scared of anybody, including Bryce and, these really effing scary people, the Hind and Baxian and Hunt. Like,
Well, or really, she's not scared of the 2...
The murder twins?
The murder
But
twins.
can I
Yeah.
have a question with that though, because they ask her, like, what did they do to you? And I feel like there's something there.
Something happened for sure.
Right.
Yeah. But she sees Morven and the murder twins for who they are and is appropriately afraid of them, not in a like cowering way, but just I recognize you for who you are.
Yeah.
And I know I need to stay away from you, which shows me that she is smart and not somebody that makes crappy decisions all the time, like her new husband, Therian. Yes. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the interaction between Sathya and Bryce, where Sathya basically calls Bryce out for having all of this responsibility and opportunity to make the Fae better and not planning to do anything with it.
Right.
And, you know, when she says, I was hoping for a queen who would make a better world. And Bryce is like, well, you got stuck with me instead.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated that she wasn't afraid to be like, you could do something. Yeah. You could actually do something.
Could make this better.
Yeah. So stop complaining about it. Yeah. If you have all these horrible things to say, make a difference. Right. Yeah. I liked her a lot. So I was excited about that. So you already shared your favorite quote, Mindy. One of your favorite quotes.
Basically, it's pretty much everything she says to him. But yeah, I had picked if you pitch this place as a luxury vacation, you're about to get a bunch of 1-star reviews. But then also later when she says sarcastically to him, you're in a real pickle, huh?
Yeah. I like that too. Yeah. What's your favorite?
I was going to tell you to go.
Oh, well, I can. And I have 3. I have 3 favorite quotes. These are all kind of like sad. They tug your heartstrings.
Great.
Yeah. So this one is Ethan. So the Asteri have again attacked the humans in Asphodel Meadows, and Ethan goes to help with Hypaxia. And Hypaxia has a few, basically like a first aid kit in her bag, but she doesn't have enough for the people that need help. And Ethan thinks, but even if all the med witches of Crescent City showed up, would it be enough? Would it ever be enough to heal what had been done here? Right. And the answer is no. And then Bryce says to Hunt, this one's just kind of sweet. I need Hunt, not some helmeted assassin. I need my mate. I need you. Because he's talking about being the Umbra Mortis, which he doesn't want to do. He doesn't like to do. And then this one, oh my gosh, broke my heart. Lydia leaving her boys after Ace says, are we supposed to cry for our mommy? And she says she just kept walking and it took all her will not to break down, and that she just kept moving because if she didn't, she would find somewhere to lay down and die.
Right.
And I'm just like, ugh. SJM is such a good writer.
I have a question about the Asphodel Meadows thing, though, because it always says that the humans can't do anything to the Asteri. So why do they keep trying to kill them?
I think because they can. Right. And I also think that they're trying, in this situation at least, I think they're trying to bait Bryce.
I was going to say, they're sending a message.
Because the last time they attacked, Asphodel Meadows, Bryce showed up immediately.
I didn't think about that.
I don't know why all the other times, but this time I think they're just trying to get her to come out of hiding.
Right. So I have 2 favorite quotes. The first one is Bryce talking about the murder twins, and she goes, "Ooh, love me some good old fashioned goons."
Yeah.
And then Hunt talking about Bryce, he goes, "Super powerful and special magic starborn princess indeed."
Yeah.
And
I like that too.
Because he's like, "Damn, that's my girl." And I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I liked that moment a lot too. Her comments about the murder twins were pretty hilarious.
Yeah,
they very much reminded me of, I think they were twins too, from the Highburn at the beginning of Ackle War when Feyre is back in the Spring Court and the 2 people from Highburn come over.
Oh, Brennan and Dagmar or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Whoever they were, the murder twins remind me of them. Deb's like, I haven't read that book in a long time.
I actually just finished it again.
Did you really?
I always have like a book that I'm listening to, and if I need something I've already listened to in the background, and I just finished it again. So it took me a really long time.
The 2 Highburn people that go after the humans that they meet through the wall.
Yeah. I don't fucking know.
Okay, well, never mind. Well, we've kind of been talking about some questions throughout, but are there any other questions that you would like to have resolved?
You know me, I always have several. I actually only have 3 this time, though. Why is Flynn's magic weird on Avallen? Thought that was interesting.
And his sister said the same thing.
Yes. And then I think once they're in the caves, Bryce kind of recognizes that too.
Yeah.
And then how are the Ocean Queen and King Morven connected? They're connected in some way.
How do you mean?
Well, I wish I remembered.
She just wrote down the question and thought you wouldn't have an answer, Whitney.
Thought you would remember for me. There is something in there.
They both are. They both are the same age, and they both know about the parasite.
No, how? Because she had Sophie's body, and now he does. So they have to be connected in some way, right? Like, how did he end up with?
Well,
Sophie?
that's true. It would have had to go from her to him somehow.
Yeah.
So what was that? Yeah, that's true.
There's got to be a connection there.
Good job, Mindy.
I'm so glad I remembered. And then what's up with the islands and how there's like the whole map.
The map
with like all the islands have disappeared, and I don't know, something strange going on there.
It felt like a big deal, but it also reminded me a little bit of like a Scooby-Doo episode where I'm like, I don't like, what are we doing? It seemed a little silly.
Very random.
Yeah.
Like I can't even come up with something that would make me understand that.
I need more context before I care about that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because there's so much going on. I need.
But I cared.
I'm
going to
hold that off.
I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you damn kids.
Meddling
Right.
kids.
Deb, do you have any other questions?
No, I think I've asked them all.
I only have a couple, and they're really unanswerable questions and about making connections to the other book series. So, number 1, the cave art depicts a river of starlight drowning the Pegasuses. That sounds weird.
Pegasi?
The Pegasi and devouring this river of starlight also devours people and cities. And so I wondered if that was literal starlight power that Peleus or Helena is supposed to have. And if so, is there any kind of connection there with the pool of starlight in the spring court?
I was just about to say the one that Feyre's not supposed to put her head under.
Right. And
I actually wrote in my notes, I think that you're onto something.
I want to know what
seems
that still
similar.
is a huge unanswered question.
Right.
Yeah.
It is. It's very much been an unanswered question. And that just struck me as kind of weird because it's like, okay, water starlight thing, that's the only other time we've seen it. So I was just curious about that because it would not be a surprising thing to me for Tamlin's family to have some kind of like dark magic something or other. You know what I mean? Because they're not great
for
people.
It to be a portal somehow,
right?
Yeah.
I just that struck me as odd. And then the other question that I have, I don't like that I noticed this. So Morven picks off or brushes off invisible dirt from his shirt, which we've seen a couple of bad guys do in Crescent City. And it's also a very classic Rhysand move in ACOTAR to flick the invisible lint. And so is that a clue that Rhys is not necessarily a good guy? And if so, I don't like it.
I don't think Rhys has always been a good guy.
Well, I know he hasn't always been a good guy.
Yeah.
But I want him to be a good guy going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't like that.
He kind of wasn't a good guy to Nesta. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I definitely agree. That's a whole other podcast episode. But I definitely agree with that. But there are just two things that I thought, and thought about other things we've seen in ACOTAR. And
Amren does it in this book too. So
I know.
Amren wasn't always a good guy.
I know.
Yeah.
So what are you guys looking forward to as we continue on?
I really want to get out of the caves again.
That I wrote that down
Getting a
too.
little redundant.
I'm done
sick
with
of
the caves.
being in Drippy, and I've learned about stalagmites and stalactites twice in this book. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what those are. Twice in this book, those have come up, and I don't think I've read those two words in a book ever.
Yeah.
So I really need to get out of the caves.
Yeah, I said I cannot do another cave journey.
No.
If you could get there quickly, Bryce, that would be
Yes,
that'd be great.
if it's going to be another miles and miles, chapters and chapters, I can't.
No.
What about you, Mindy? What are you looking
Same.
forward to?
I want to get out of that, and I also want to see. I'm really kind of excited to see what happens with Sophie and have that sort of storyline come back in.
Yeah.
I'm just very curious.
I know. I kind of want them to just leave her alone.
I do kind of want them to leave her alone,
Yeah.
but also I kind of want her to be reanimated because I want to see her go all badass on everybody.
I know that would be pretty cool. Yeah, I wrote down I want to get out of the caves, and also I want more neck licking.
I would prefer him lick her cooter.
Only if he calls it that.
Bring that cooter over here.
Is there anything else that you guys wanted to talk about? I do have one more tidbit, but I want you guys to say all your things first.
Yeah.
Well, this was my deep dive, and I'm going to finish this off on hopefully a humorous, lighthearted note because
unlike King Louis
and Episiotomies. So I didn't talk about them a ton except for Sathya, but I really am loving the storyline between Tharian and Sathya, even though it's another freaking impulsive decision that Tharian doesn't think about at all. But it is coming from a really beautiful place to me of protecting this woman from Morven and protecting her from the murder twins in memory of his sister. So I appreciate that. I give him a little bit more grace. He gets a pass for me on that because of his motivation. So their conversation in their room that night after they get married, where Tharian is like, I'm Tharian, nice to meet me. Like, that made me laugh and cringe because I found it very awkward. And I wrote in my notes on that section, talk about an awkward wedding night. And so I thought,
reminded me of Outlander a little bit.
Yeah, I thought, oh, hey, here's my deep dive for this week, awkward wedding nights. So
I cannot wait.
I got all of these from a BuzzFeed article that's linked in our show notes. If you want to go read everything on here, I have my top 5 responses, but BuzzFeed basically asked readers, did you consummate your marriage on your wedding night? Why or why not? And these are my top 5 favorite answers. So here we go. We spent the night heavily drinking and playing blackjack. I threw up so much and so hard that at one point I wound up throwing up and heaving so hard that I pooped on the rug. I cleaned up with every towel, sheet, pillowcase, and linen I could find, and then I threw those linens outside someone else's door. I covered the stain with the couch and did not tell my husband until the next year when we went back to Vegas for our first anniversary. He found the story hysterical, but it became exponentially more funny when we serendipitously got the exact same suite and found the stains still there.
No.
Can you imagine? Oh my gosh.
So that means they have not flipped over those couch cushions in a year.
No, they moved the couch over the floor.
Oh.
I think
so
that's
no one's
that's
vacuumed
how
under that couch in a year?
No one's moved that.
or moved the couch, I guess.
Or they vacuumed and they were like, well, I know why the couch is here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was number 1. Here's the second one. We had a beautiful outdoor wedding in June, and my dear husband wanted to spend our wedding night in a huge teepee. When we retired to our accommodations,
Why'd you marry that guy?
when we retired to our accommodations, I noticed there was like a 3-foot gap from the ground to the edge of our teepee. Our air mattress was completely exposed to onlookers. Then my husband's drunk aunts began a fertility dance. There was chanting.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man, that made me laugh a lot. All right, so here's the next one. I was 7 weeks pregnant when we got married. We drove home after the reception. I opened the car door and boom, instant vomit because, morning sickness. Yeah. I cried because I bought the lingerie and everything. He was super sweet about it, but I was so stubborn that I brushed my teeth, put on that stupid outfit and did it anyway. It was some of the worst sex ever, but I couldn't not do it on my wedding night. We eventually made up for it.
Poor thing.
Yeah. My wedding night ended up with the entire wedding party, including guests, waving us off to our room. Our reception was at a hotel and we stayed there that night. Right before we entered the room, my husband looked down at the guests and screamed, "Jesus said we can do it. We're going to do it." My dad gave a thumbs up.
God.
Oh, nice. I went into the room mortified. We did do it a lot and everywhere in that room. That was great. And so this one is my favorite one, last but not least. So remember the question was, did you consummate your marriage on the wedding night? No, we tried, but it was like trying to fit a marshmallow into a coin slot. That was my favorite one.
Oh, okay, so every virgin wedding, we need to make sure they have lube.
Yeah, try to fit a marshmallow into it.
Also, make sure the man knows how to get the woman ready. Because that should not be a problem.
It should not.
The vagina
should not
is
go
made
like that.
to expand.
I actually have one to add.
Oh, tell me
this your
everything.
This is mine.
Tell me everything.
Yeah, so we actually did not get to consummate on our actual wedding night, but because we were leaving like bright and early in the morning to go.
I'm really excited about this story.
To go for our flight. We went on a Caribbean cruise. So we fly to San Juan and jump on the boat and, everything. And we just couldn't wait. We just wanted to attack each other. So we get into our room. We, get into bed and start consummating. And safety drill.
No.
Absolutely. We did finish. And we're late to the fucking safety drill.
And you were the people fucking walking up while everyone's standing there in the heat waiting. He's like, sorry, I needed some dick.
We had to finish.
God. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So
good for you, girl.
Good times.
Were you able to consummate on your wedding night? Mm-hmm. We consummated, but I took a nap first. I was really tired, and my dress was heavy.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that sometimes those personal products that are like self-warming, whatever, those can feel like a freshly sliced jalapeno with your hoo-ha.
You're telling us from a friend's experience, right?
I've heard.
Someone told you.
I've heard that could be a very negative experience. That's what I've been told. So just a word of warning to everyone, according to a friend.
Yes.
All right. On that note,
and that's it. That's it, guys. So next week we are going to be talking about chapters 54 through 64. And that's it.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Let me double check that that's